Hi guys, welcome back to another GGF mod build video. Now today we're taking a look at the recent build I did in the Corsair Frame 5000D. Now it's been a while since I've done one of these mod build videos. As I said in the chassis review that I did this build on, I want to start doing those more often. I used to do those quite a lot back when I was in Australia. Every time I did a build, I would do a mod build video. Now I call it that because some of these builds have some slight mods. I wouldn't say they're absolutely amazing. The whole thing's been modified, customized, but I do a few little tweaks here and there. So a lot of you guys can attempt to do these at home. I've got materials here that I picked up from Amazon, which I have used in this build. So a lot of my builds don't do things like, I don't have a 3D printer. I don't have a laser cutter. Everything I do is by hand. So a lot of this can be replicated from or by you guys. So in this video, I'm going to talk over, first of all, I'll go over the hardware in case any missed that when I went over it in the review. Mind you, I'll put the review on this chassis in the description below. I'll put the time-lapse video as well in the description as well. So I'll go over the hardware, the reason for this build, the idea behind it, the wood I used for here, and it's probably hard to see, but this whole basement cover I made where these pass-through tubes are going is the same timber, and then also the tube routing as well. So my Corsair contact reached out to me and was like, have you ever done a Zero RGB or a stealth build before? And I kind of laughed because back in the day, 5 or 6 years ago, if you do follow this channel, I have done so many Zero RGB builds. Now I don't want to say I was the first, but I can say I was probably one of the first out there to start bringing back this Zero RGB when everyone was in that RGB craze. Now, the problem we have now in 2025 and in the future, or all the hardware that comes out basically has RGB built in. So things like your motherboard, memory, fans, and all that. This build wasn't too bad. There are quite a few RGB components because there are just some ways you cannot get around it. You have to turn it off. The fans from Corsair, they are no RGB built in at all. Corsair do a lot of RGB fans, and then they also do some that have no RGB. Then there's the memory as well. The Corsair Dominator Titanium, that by default has RGB built in, but Corsair offers a thin accessory kit where you actually pull the whole RGB strip module out and then you replace it with a non-RGB fin design instead. So I could get away with doing that. Things like blocks, motherboard, there's nothing you can do to get around it. I believe EVGA were probably one of the last. I was using them a lot when I was doing the Zero RGB builds. EVGA didn't really have much RGB on their boards and it was pretty easy to get away with them. So I'll talk about the hardware, then talk about some of the mods I did on this build. So Corsair Frame 5000D, reviewed this chassis. I'll put that in the link below, description below, a link for that. AMD Ryzen 9800X3D as the CPU. The ROG Crosshair X870E Apex. This is a relatively new board, very, very high performance. 2DIMM only, if you're wondering why there's only 2 memory modules. It's a 2DIMM OC board. We have the RTX 5090 Astral. That's this here. And then we have the brand new Corsair GPU block. Now that's for the 5090 only. Now I believe Corsair are only going to be doing, I think 1 or 2. I saw at Computex for the 50 series. They're going to do the 5090 Astral, which is this one here. And then they will do their more universal one, I believe, that will support more 50 series models. And that's it's sort of less of the full cover block than what you see here. And we have the Dominator Titanium I mentioned. Corsair fans are the iCUE Link RX 120 and 140. I believe I used 140s at the top, 120 for the front and the side, and they are the RX 140 I just said and 120, and they're the thick version. So these are, I think they're 35mm thick. They're absolutely huge, high performance fans. Corsair HX 1500 IPSU down the bottom, and then Cable Mod Pro sleeve cables. Now, depending on when this video comes out, I don't know if it will be before or after, I do have the brand new Corsair Xenon Edge screen. A lot of people have been interested in that. I can't show it on film or anything like that. It's still under NDA, but I will be installing that into this case. I think I'll probably have that video out beforehand. So you'll see in that video that I'm probably going to mount it up here. It does fit in a 360 spot where it would normally go in the side, but it's going to be a bit of a mission to fit it in there. So I'll probably mount it in there and show off what that screen can do, which is pretty cool. Water cooling gear in the chassis is the Corsair XC7 RGB Elite LCD. This one here, I really like these CPU blocks that Corsair are doing. They have the screen on it. They're nice and clean, they're nice and subtle, nothing over the top. Now for the GPU I mentioned, 5090 Astral, the pump res combo is the XD5 RGB Elite, which is that one there. Actually, that's a HXD5. They have a new one, which is the XD6. This is the HXD5. The only difference is they've changed the pump design in the newer one. Then we have the 2360. They're the slim RAS from Corsair, the RX5 at the front and the side. And then the top is the XR5 420 all slim. Now you'll notice or if you're wondering why I went with slims all round, if you watch my review video, you will know why I went slims, because it's a little bit tricky fitting thicker rads in the front and the side in this chassis. Then we have the 14mm fittings for the Corsair all around, 14mm, and then the rest of Corsair as well. And then we have the Corsair clear coolant, and I've used black dye. So I'm pretty sure that was Thermaltake black dye, thrown it in here, and it brings out, or doesn't really bring it out, it really just ties in the coolant with the rest of the build. Now moving on to some of the mods or some of the other extra work I did. I wanted to change it up a bit. I just didn't want to leave the case completely stock. As it comes stock, this panel goes on here like that, and then it actually still looks pretty good like that, mind you. And then the top here is more open with the mesh design. And one other thing I did, which I mentioned in my review, is I swapped all of these little yellow thumb screws, not the thumb screws, just the yellow ring on them. I swapped them all to just took them off and put some silver washers on, just so you didn't have all yellow random bits on this build, because it would really stand out. So yeah, basically what I did is went onto Amazon. This is a veneered timber. There's so many different types. I'll put the links to the store I got this from. I don't even know what all these is. There's like a walnut. This one here might be a mahogany, something like that. So many different styles or different wood finishes. For what I was doing, going over it with a stain, it probably didn't matter. So you could probably just go with the cheapest one. What I did was I traced around the quarter panel, which they call it, traced around, went like that, cut it with my miter saw. You can do it by hand, it might be a bit rough, but cut it with my miter saw. You can use a table saw, so on. Once that's done, it literally is just stuck on the outer edge, or this inner edge here. This inner edge here, double-sided tape. Don't need to do anything fancy. Could use magnets, anything like that. But what I ended up doing was using a stain. Picked up a few stains off Amazon, because I always knew when doing something like a black stain, it's very hard to get that deep black. A lot of times it goes brown. I used this one here. This is actually I'll get that in shop there, black dye. Actually says black twice. That's a black dye. That didn't look as good. I used another brand of stain and it came out a bit brown, but this one here, I get this one, what's this, wood finish. This is called Min Wax here. This one here worked out really good. I pretty much just, once I cut this to size, held it up, got an old rag and just started coating it on over and over. I'll get some shots of B-roll on me doing it. And then I did a few coats. Now with a stain, it takes a very, very long time to dry. When I paint something, I can often get away with putting it out in the sun for a bit before I do a second coat. I can even get away with a heat gun by heating it up if I have a very, very tight timeline. Now, I did have a tight timeline with this. I only had a few days. And when you have to leave these panels overnight to dry, that really kills your time management to get this build done. So you can't just use a heat gun to heat it up. It just works a little bit differently. So it takes a while to dry and you don't really see the final result. Well, you can see how black it looks, but you don't see the full final result until it is dry, because I was getting some reflections in some parts, and that's because some bits were drying faster than other parts and some bits were a little bit wet. So until it was completely dry, it didn't get its full effect. But yeah, that was pretty much it. Just dabbed some on a rag, just went over it until it was fully done, till it was all wet, it all looked even, let it dry, and then I did another coat. Took me a few coats, had to do the sides, edges, the bottom and all that, and then just stuck it on. And then same with the pass-through panel. I actually had to stain that last because I know I was drilling all these holes. So I didn't know where all these holes were going to be until I actually got the build completed. And then once this panel was cut to size, the holes were done, then I stained it all, went through the same process again, let it sit overnight to dry. And then I think this is actually just sitting on here. By the time you put all these pass-throughs through and all that, you don't really need to secure these down because the whole PSU cover tray at the top here is still solid. I think it's only cut out to about here. It's still all solid, so it doesn't really have to be secured down. So that pretty much held that up. And then I think that just tied it in nicely rather than just going with something with the standard stock mesh ones. And you can do other things as well. This timber I've used in another build comes in handy. Rather than leaving it in as raw finish, you can actually pick up some fabric. You can wrap it with fabric. You can use fine like 3mm staples to attach fabric to it, flip it the other side, and then you could mount it on here, and then you could have fabric instead of the timber look. Now people might be saying, well, you're completely blocking the airflow. Well, yes and no, depending on how you have this case set up. I've got it set up pretty much in and then out up the top. So this is not being used. When you get this case from Corsair, they give you a few options. You can actually fill this with a piece so it's solid. So that'll redirect your airflow. So no intake will come in the side. It'll go in the bottom. But for me, I don't need that. I'm coming in from the side and then out the top and out the back. You could even go in the side, in the front, and then out the top. You don't 100% need to go through this side. So I don't think that this needs to be completely open because a lot of cases don't have intake coming in from this side little quarter panel. Now, lastly, I do want to talk about is the tube routing. Now, I normally spend quite a few days just before I even sort of touch a case, before I even start working on it, I just think of different ideas and how the case or the final build will look. Now, it wasn't until I actually installed a power supply that I actually noticed there was enough room to fit tubing down the edge and then the front of the chassis. A lot of times in cases, power supplies go from the back to very, very close to the front. So you can't actually fit any tubing down. So when I saw that opportunity, I was like, let's do it. Let's run this GPU straight down because I love it when GPU runs just go straight down. When a pump res combo goes straight down. Pump res combo wasn't too bad because I can move that around wherever I want. You can't really move a GPU wherever you want because once it's fixed in there, you only have an option of offsetting it by fittings. And then once these two were pretty much done, the last thing was to do the CPU run. Now I didn't really want to bring this anywhere else. I didn't want to go over the memory, didn't want to go back up. So I thought let's just do a parallel run straight down to the GPU and clean it up nicely. And that was pretty much it. Then the rest of all the rads are just done by soft tubing. I mentioned this in my previous video. Soft tubing, use something like the black rubber style tubing, black fittings, and then I've got my ports. I can see 2 ports there. This one's flipped upside down, so the ports are in the basement. There's 2 ports here, and then it's really, really hard to see all of those tubing runs, and it just, I think, ties it in nicely, and it gives it that really stealthy look. But I think that is pretty much it. Didn't want this to go for too long. I just wanted to help answer some of those questions because once this review is out, I'm going to release these mod videos probably a few weeks later so I can go on, sift through all the comments, and most of the comments were about this wood paneling. People were saying, was it real wood? Was it a vinyl wrap? Like, yes, you could pick up a vinyl wrap. I do have wood vinyl, but then you still need a material to put it on. So basically you're either going to need a bit of wood, like you can't really put vinyl on this, it just wouldn't work. So you either need a bit of acrylic, a bit of wood, or something to adhere the vinyl to. So I thought, well, why not just go with, although some people might not say this is real wood, it is like a, I don't know what's inside it, some engineered timber, but it does have a veneer finish on top. Now, there's probably no reason to go with something like a full proper hardwood that is completely solid without the veneer, because 1, I don't know if you can get it in such a large flat sheet, and then 2, it's only going on like this case side and then on the basement like here. And you can use this for other things as well. Any cases that have cover panels, I have another mod video coming up where I use this, where the case has some aesthetic panels on the front and on the top, and you can go to town and just play with different ideas. And if you have things like engravers and things like that, routers, you can play around with different designs on them as well. But anyway, I think that is it on this video. Any more questions, throw them in the comment and I'll try to help you out. But anyway, like always, thank you for watching and we'll see you in the next one.